And without further ado, I'd like to welcome the producers, Mary Rohlich and Kimi Culp, and the director, Clay Tweel. First of all, congratulations on that. Cannot have been an easy film to make. And I understand, Kimi, that you've actually been on the project, you were first on the project and you've been on the project for 5 or so years. Can you talk about that?
I sure can. So my involvement in the project really begins with friendship. Michelle and I were college roommates. We've been friends for 20 years. My background is in journalism, so I was journalist for many years, and when Steve really initially began filming himself as a gift and legacy to Rivers, as you see was captured in the film, and when everybody got to the point where realized really this was the potential to be a theatrical documentary, and they wanted to share their story on a larger platform, we brought the film to LA and went on a exhaustive director search, which luckily ended up with Clay as our director, because he just created a beautiful film that we're really proud of. But one of the things personally for me that I think both Clay and I have realized going into this is that this film really has given Michelle a voice. Steve's story and Steve's profile, became big, but sort of the gift in this film to Michelle, and what I think Clay did so beautifully is give a voice to my dear friends. So.
And Mary, I have a sort of off-topic question for you, which is, I understand that while you were producing this, you also produced the feature Baywatch. So I'd like you to explain that.
Yes, I was one of them. Explain that. Well, I guess the great thing about my job is that I get to work on films like Baywatch and Horrible Bosses and Identity. And Seth, who's not here, is my partner. And we get to make big movies like that, and also the antidote to all of that are the documentaries that we get to work on, as well as TV shows. And truthfully, we love them all, and I'm very lucky to be able to work on those things. And part of the reason I can do that is because of great partners like Bo Flynn, who really produced Baywatch, who made it possible for me to be able to work on multiple things like this and other things, and having other producers that, that's the great thing about producers is you're a team, and it really makes it possible to do all the things that you love.
I like that answer. So Clay, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but obviously extremely sensitive material. What were some of your early discussions with both Michelle and Steve about this?
Sure. I mean, I think that one of the very first things that Steve said to me was that he wanted to show the kind of daily realities of ALS in a way that maybe had not been seen before. And I tried to kind of stay true to that original statement, but it definitely was something where I had to consult with them, because as you saw, the movie is so raw and vulnerable and honest. It's incredibly kind of courageous to me that they even let all of this be shown in the way that it was. So I always wanted to try to find that line of something that they were comfortable with, but that held true to what Steve first told me about what he wanted the movie to be. And I very much wanted to stay true to that as well.
Did you have some difficult conversations where you maybe wanted to include something that he didn't, although I have to be honest, he seems that he was completely open about everything.
He was very open. I mean, there's a couple things, but I don't think, ultimately, look, film is the ultimate collaborative art, but I think that we ended in the best place possible. I really do believe that, in retrospect, thinking about the things that possibly any one of us wanted in or had to leave out, it's where it's at for a reason. And nobody wants to watch a 2.5 hour movie version. So we wanted to try to keep it as tight as possible, but I think one of the things that we all saw that was so unique about the movie as well is it's very experiential. like there's a lot of great kind of true fly on the wall moments of watching these people go through these events in their lives, and so giving the space and the breadth to let that happen.
Well, I imagine with such rich material that your first cut probably was quite long.
It wasn't.
Although you're also an editor. So.
I also edit. I'm not a huge fan of the like super long first cut because I just can't wrap my brain around it. I have too many notes for myself. Like I can't do the 3 hour, 4 hour cut. So I try to, like most of the movies I've done, I think the longest I've ever had was a 2 hour and 5 minute cut.
That's it. And I understand that Steve's actually doing quite well right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you see in the film is hopefully, in spite of this illness, first of all, a tremendous amount of levity and laughter and an appropriate sense of humor, which lives on to date. But I mean, Steve lives a remarkable life. I mean, he's a consultant for Microsoft. He's deeply engaged as a father at River School. He's running a foundation. This film has been so well received, and he'll be traveling the country this summer at screenings. And he has very deep personal friendships. So a lot of things that are just fulfilling, in spite of all that he's facing, are ever present and full in his life. So it's remarkable, and I think he's the 5% of people with this illness, who take it on in that way, but he's doing well.
That's great to hear. I'd like to open it up. Do we have any questions for the filmmakers from the audience? If not, I have many more. Anyone over here? Or over there?
I just have a question about, when you have all this material that's essentially, like a video diary or video blog, and you do want to make it into a theatrical release, how do you deal with clearances for that type of, you have so much different kind of footage?
Oh wait, we have to get clearances? No, we had a producer, Shannon Riggs, who came on and she did an amazing job, and that was, once we got a cut of the film, that was one of the main focuses for her for like a series of 3-4 months, was tracking people down. And what's great is like that the family keeps in touch with a lot of these people, and we were able to get those clearances, and friends and friends of friends, and everybody loves Steve and Michelle, so it was easier than you might think. But yeah, there was 1,300 hours of footage captured over 4.5 years, and we edited that in a year, and it was, I think, probably took her a couple months to get all the clearances. So it was pretty amazing.
Even stuff out in like big public places?
There weren't a lot of those, and if they were usually kind of NFL related, and thankfully we were able to thread the needle there. The NFL is not usually the easiest place to deal with, but again, they love Steve, and we were able to make that happen.
I'll add to that just practically that she also, or Shannon, who's not here, but also became like an expert in fair use, and has, that's a huge part of it, is understanding what you can and can't use, and having lawyers consult on that. And it's a big, there's a lot of sections of the film that required that, and we're very specific about why we had to use certain things in certain ways. And when you're going through that process, there will be a lot of it that's easy to clear, and other things that you need expert help and advice, and reading a lot of books and understanding that. That'll help.
Thank you.
Right here in the center.
So, how do you go from 1,300 hours to less than 2 in terms of all the footage, and how did you get through that?
Sure. So there was 2 guys, Ty Minton Small and David Lee. They were, when Steve could no longer film himself, these 2 young film students, fresh out of film school, I should say, they lived with the family, became kind of embedded with them for 3 years, and that's the kind of trust that you're feeling on the other side of the camera. And those guys came to LA and were assistant editors as well. And so that was huge for us because it's able for our team to kind of prioritize the footage of what is the kind of like A-level material. But we watched between there was another co-editor, Brian Palmer, and then we had a couple interns. Between the like 5, 6 of us, we watched all 1,300 hours, and then we all sat back and assessed like what are the holes in the story. You know, what are the best things that we watched, and then let's sequence those out, and then let's figure out where are the holes. It's funny, like in 4.5 years of footage, Ty and David are great, and they're what they captured was amazing. But like no one ever asked, what's happening and how do you feel about it? Not once. So we had to go back and try to get a couple interviews and just add a little bit more context to what was happening. But that was our game plan.
I should add on that note, when we were meeting with directors and sharing with directors that they would be taking on a project with 1,300 hours plus of footage and we wanted to film it in the next year, a lot of them were like, okay, well, we understand there's these 2 young guys. We're going to go to them, figure out the selects and the best of, and we'll start there and make the film. And Clay was the only person who said, I'm going to watch all 1,300 hours every frame. And I'm like, I like this guy. So a lot of time.
Right back there?
How did you know, well, that's the last day of shooting? We have all we're going to have now.
I think that, you know, with that much material, I'd be pretty shitty if I couldn't come up with something. There was just so much. I mean, I feel like the sentiment of like, okay, we're done, was when we were able to do those last couple interviews. And for me, when I really felt it was it was a clip that Steve had sent of him driving Rivers, picking up Rivers from school, and you see them have that little conversation in the car. And it immediately made me think of Steve when his cousin was eating cheese on the mountaintop, and they're talking about like, oh, I might not be able to have a real conversation with my son. I was like, oh, that pays it off for me. And I was like, I think we have everything at this point. Like that, we were able to kind of set up and pay off enough where I felt like the ending was really working.
When you finally had a cut that you could show Steve and Michelle, what was that like? Because it's always tough to show the subjects of the film, but in this case, I would think particularly so.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were a wreck. It was. We went down to their house, we showed it to them in their living room, and I think the first thing that Steve said was just like, "Whoa, dude, that's intense." Yes.
Started crying.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So they both started bawling at like 10 seconds, 20 seconds into the movie, and we were all like, "Oh God, what are you doing?" But they loved it, and Michelle in particular, like Kimmy was saying, I think was especially pleased.
Sure. Okay, one more question, right up there.
I was just curious from a narrative standpoint, you often don't know, you sort of got all this footage in your lap, and did you have any preconceived notions of what the story was going to be, and is that so different than what it ended up? For everybody, I guess. The kind of framework I had in my mind was that this was going to be a movie about a guy who was finding his purpose through a set of kind of tragic circumstances. Because I had seen footage and I kind of knew a little bit of the story. There's a lot of kind of material out there on Steve already, the NFL Network piece and some ESPN pieces. So I thought like, oh, we'll get some behind the scenes about this guy, like forming the foundation and kind of the hope and perseverance to live. And so what I didn't know was that there was going to be this intergenerational story of fatherhood like Steve dealing with his own father in a way that reflected on how he was thinking about raising his own son, and then and Michelle's story. I had not seen or really like heard of Michelle and kind of like how witty and honest and just like non-filtered she is in an amazing way. So I didn't know how deep we could go on any of those stories.
So tell us, when does the film come out? Tell us how much you love working with Amazon, I think, and how we can support you.
Producers.
The film comes out, will be premiering in 5 cities: New Orleans, LA, New York, San Francisco, and Seattle. The opening weekend is July 28th, 9th. And Amazon Studios and Open Road are our partners, which I think has been incredible, and Amazon Studios coming out so strong out of the gate, in the content space, and just being really and deeply invested. And I think in particular, at the Sundance experience and meeting with, potential partners for the film, their personal hook, when people are not only professionally invested, like this is a great film and it could do well, for the studio or for the bottom line, but this is a story that moved me personally. And so I think that you feel that heart and that passion, how people are really personally invested in the success of the film, which I believe takes it, to a different level, and we're really grateful to have partners that feel as passionate about the stories we do.
Yeah, I think we really appreciate you all coming out and watching it together in a theater, because I think one thing we've experienced, having been to some festivals, is that watching this film with other people actually is a different experience, and you really kind of collectively go through something, at least we did, and I think encouraging other people to go see it in theaters with people would be wonderful, and the word of mouth is such a huge thing for small movies like this that really need support, and I think there is something about the community experience of, going through this with other people that feels like really human and important, and we'd love, your support and spreading the word about that.
Congratulations again. It's a really wonderful movie. You should be very, very proud. And please join us for nibbles in the bar area. And these guys will stick around to answer more questions. Thank you for coming.